Why are you here?
Why are you listening?
Why are you inspired?
Why are you rising?
Why are you running?
This is a Rise Over Run audio series that features people's truths
Stories
and experiences.
Let's
Rise together.
Why are you? On CJRU.
I feel as though I wear a different mask with different people every day. My actions and behavior constantly change with the people I'm around, which scares me. I struggle with not knowing who I truly am.
Hi everyone, this is Christina here from YRU, and I'm here with Lorenzo again. Hi Lorenzo.
What's up? What's up?
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
That's great. So, Christina, I just wanted to ask you a question before we start the show.
Okay,
I
let's hear
wanted
it.
to ask you, when you think of the word, or when you hear the word expectation, what comes to mind?
Ooh, that's a tough one. First, it'll be expectations in terms of academics, like expectations in relation to societal standards. Like I'm supposed to graduate within the 4 years. I'm supposed to exceed with this grades. And then after that, I'm either going to get a master's or I'm going to get a job. And that used to matter so much to me. But I came to the point where my personal expectations of myself is given more of a priority than the norm. So for example, everyone goes through their own struggles, right? They always have their own things that they want to improve with themselves. So for me, my expectation of myself is being able to get out of bed every day. And once I've succeeded that, I feel like I've accomplished something.
Where
right?
do you feel like that idea of trying to excel at your academics came from?
My family, my parents. So at first it was always like, university, master's, PhD, all these things. Like this is the norm. Like this is your life. This is all that there is to it. And if you don't do this, you're not going to get to where you're at. And that's really tough.
Yeah, no, I relate to that 100%. When you said family, I was like, that's exactly where I feel when I hear expectations. Because a lot of that academic expectation growing up came from family. I think it was one of those validation things when you came back with your report cards. Like it was a validation for your family and your parents that they were doing a good job. They were doing their job to keep you in check almost. And I feel like that's like a huge part of where I come from these days. I'm trying to meet my family's expectations in terms of trying to find my place in life. At least when you're in school and you get grades, these are the things that you're achieving. You do work, you get a tangible grade. That's how the process works. You get something back, and in life, when you graduate, you're trying to define success on your own. There isn't this tangible thing that you're getting. You're not getting a grade for waking up in the morning and finding your purpose, finding your passion. You're not getting that in return. You have to almost define that yourself.
So being in Kingston, I went to school in Kingston. I just felt like the only purpose in life was academics because I was there. I was living in this location for the purpose of school, and that was all there to us. And once I left there, it took me a while, but there's so much more to life. Doing what I love, but I've never been so happy in my life. Well, we have our friend Akil with us today, and I'm kind of curious what his definition of expectations is. What comes to your mind?
Well, for me, I think my father's story, he came here with, less than $20 in his pocket, got arranged married to my mother. They never knew each other for 2.5 years. So had little to no money in his pocket, worked dead-end jobs to put food on the table for us when he had me at a young age. To eventually, long story short, building an accounting firm on his own and supporting me now, my sister's part of the picture, my mom, and his two parents. So he came from nothing to something and, did it all on his own. He had the motivation to get there. So to live under his expectation, one of the hardest things I've had to deal with myself. You never want to let down family. Family is the backbone to your life. So I'm expected to be there every day, every night for him and my mom and his parents, for that matter of fact, because they're still around. And he adds no pressure himself. He doesn't want to drill any on me. He does a good job of not forcing it on me, but it's there at the end of the day. Because you want to show that you can do it just as well as they did. But if you look at it academically, the expectation the education system wants you to achieve is a B. B is great. You get it. Good job. C, you get it a little bit. You're dropping down, then worse and worse. But no, my parents, they only ever saw A. They didn't care what B was, just because my name started with A, they wanted me to get A's. I don't know. I did at the start, and then things changed. I was meeting the standard, but the standard wasn't good enough. I don't think expectation is a bad thing. I just think that the expectations should be set together as opposed to set for you.
I would think it was a bad thing if it came to the extent where it's damaging the person, right? It's always good to always seek self-improvement, to always improve, have that expectation, to always exceed than what you previously were able to do. But if it came to the point where someone was just doing these things to meet other people's expectations, and if they develop fear, it'd be really emotionally damaging in the long run.
That's real to me. I remember being in my second year. I remember being stretched super thin. I was barely treading water. And I remember calling my parents and telling them, look, I can't do what I think that you guys wanted me to do. And I remember just like bawling my eyes out. I had a hard time trying to bounce back. But it was also a relief to express those things. I think at least I learned at that time was be the best I could possibly can be. And outside of anybody else's expectation.
We have Akil with us today because he wrote a piece for Rise Over Run. And we're just going to ask him questions about him, get to know him a bit more.
I was born in Etobicoke, which is now part of the 6, now part of Toronto. I like to say that I'm from Toronto, though I'm not. I lived in Brampton for a couple years until grade 4. Then I moved out to Woodbridge.
And what do you do now?
Right now, I'm currently working with my dad for an IT company in the marketing department.
If you were on a TV show or a movie, who would you be and why?
I'm fluctuating between Aziz Ansari in Master of None or Arthur Reed from the show Arthur.
Why those two?
Very relatable. Aziz's character in Master of None, extremely relatable. Like a brown actor, which is something I did. My degree was in theater, so a brown actor figured out his life, while dealing with immigrant parents and the world of dating and living in a big city. I found Arthur really relatable, just his character, the type of person he was, his family, the things he liked, stuff like that. A guy with glasses, just a dorky dude.
Why did you write the piece for Rise Over Run?
Lorenzo, being one of my good friends, came up to me and asked me to be a part of his project. At first I didn't really understand what it was about, and I was intrigued by it. And it wasn't something that happened overnight. I thought about it. I would open up a Word document and I'd be like, no, that's not what's going on. Then I started recording myself, actually, my thoughts, speaking them out. I'm like, maybe my thoughts will come out. But that wasn't working either. So literally, day by day, I would dedicate half an hour.
How did you feel when writing it?
A wide array of emotions to feeling happy, thinking I wrote something kind of funny there. I can be a funny guy, to definitely really sad, tears dropping down while writing something and having to stop, collect yourself and make sure that you yourself are okay. But it was always nice to come out of that afterwards and see that light at the end of the tunnel, because you were able to talk about it. And I think that's the hardest part for so many people. That's why I commend Zoe so much for starting a project like this, is because it's created a dialogue for discussion, for us to be able to talk about the things that we're not okay with. What I thought was really cool about writing for Rise Over Run was the amount of people that would come up to me man, I dealt with that too. And I was like, really? You would never have thought so-and-so was dealing with the same thing that I was.
If you summarize your piece in a bit, what is it about for you?
I think it's about self-exploration. I think every piece, everyone discovers something different about themselves. I definitely think I discovered a part of myself and how in tune I am with my emotions.
All right, so we're going to share pieces of Akil's story, and we're just going to have a discussion on some of the topics that he touches on.
My first struggle has always been academic. It was a struggle to get here, studying something I love and genuinely enjoy. It was a struggle to convince my parents to let me choose what I wanted to study in post-secondary. I'm still struggling with school, and I think I always will. Once university began, I started to struggle with something else. I struggled with not knowing who I truly was, because every time I was home, I behaved differently than when I was in Kingston. It's almost like changing masks, never truly knowing which one to keep on and which one properly fits and makes you look good, or the other that makes you look horrible or horrific in. I truly wish I knew which one I was wearing at all times, so that way I would keep the one that made everyone accept me. I don't really know who I am.
Honestly, after hearing that, it kind of reminded me of expectations, the whole changing persona, changing personalities in one setting in comparison to another. So you're just is this actually part of who I am? And it could be, right? Because
it gets to you. I particularly found that mask part, that changing mask. Every single day you have to put on a mask. You walk down the street and you see your friend and hey, how's it going? What's your automatic response? Your automatic response is I'm good. You don't ever ask yourself really in that moment, are you really good?
Yeah. So Akil, you talked about changing masks and one that fits properly and one that actually feels good, and then you don't really know who you are. Can you elaborate a bit on it?
Queens, small town, Kingston, not a lot of people, primarily students, and it's all people you're meeting for the first time. and you're surrounding yourself with like different groups of people. You become different around certain people. I don't know, like, oh, I have to make sure my floor mates like me, so I'm just trying to be that really, really nice guy. So you want to be like that funny guy at work and try to like show the older students like, hey, like I hang out with you guys. And so when you come home, you're behaving completely differently with people you went to high school with, and using slang in your hometown that you wouldn't dare use in Queens because people wouldn't understand what you're saying. It was interesting because I was like, wait, who is Akil now? Like, is Akil the guy who goes to Queens now, or is Akil like who he is when he comes back home? And I couldn't differentiate between it. I didn't know which one I liked more. I'm like, wait, do these people like me better? Is that what's more important? Is like how people feel about me? It got me to question that. And even when Lorenzo was saying, do you ever get a chance to think like, am I good? Like, am I really okay? Not being at Queens anymore, not saying that going back and forth was a reason like mass were changing, but now being in this place for a while now, like I think what Akil gained from going to Queens, he brought home and found a happy in between. I say Queens helped shape who I am today. Helped me learn about a lot of things that I'm passionate about. And I've incorporated those things into my lifestyle here. And I found the balance, I'd want to say. And I think I've come to that happy medium that I've been looking for, at least with struggling with knowing who I am.
In this time right now, compared to who you were 3 years ago, I feel like you're more sure of who you are today. So when people say who you are, like people say your name, how would you explain it to them? Who is Akil Dua?
Akil is a part of everyone. Akil is a part of everything. You know, Lorenzo always pulled my like every time we go somewhere, like you know somebody, like, oh hey Akil, talk to you. You know, we can't go somewhere without someone coming up to you, like knowing who you are. I've grown to just get used to that kind of joke, but that's something I've always liked, to be a part of everyone around me, to be a part of everyone's life, have a positive impact in people's lives when you meet them. Like, Akil in the Sanskrit language or the Hindu language actually means universal, so I like to take that with me every day.
What advice would you give to someone going through what you described earlier on, between having to switch to different masks, not really knowing who exactly they are?
With something like that, maybe this is like the right thing to do, but I guess done subtly. See how people react to the things you do. It's a realization. It's not like, oh, that's bad, just cut it out. Like, no, it's a realization of maybe this isn't the best thing in the world. Or like, work on ways to be aware of your surroundings and see what's working and what's not. And if you as yourself, like, how do you feel when you're going through those things? Do you feel good about yourself? Like, it's important to always think about yourself, but sometimes we don't think about how our words can, the implications they can have on other people. So I think it's very mindful to be aware. Losing is my pet peeve. Like in things like video games, in competition like sports and whatnot, I did not like losing, but I never knew what it was like to lose someone.
You know what? I didn't even think of that. But yeah, when I first started, I was just like, yeah, losing. Hate losing. Yeah, absolutely. And then losing someone.
When you grow up with all these expectations, especially in school, you have this competitive drive in you. And I think when you apply that to life, you don't realize or expect those expectations from yourself or within yourself are also of somebody else, of another human being. I think that's where it gets difficult.
Yeah, for me, in my experience, I lost a friend. We just couldn't connect, and I lost her. I actually don't know how to explain it. Like, it just feels so weird. Yeah, like, I'm used to losing and stuff like that. Like, I'm not great at everything, but like, what about this? Like, whoa, this is like really new. It's not even losing in the sense that we were even talking about competitive or whatnot. I felt like I was just in competition with myself.
I think it makes you take a step back and gives you perspective on other situations and other things in life that are more important. And we get caught up in our own things and our own selves. And when there are people involved, when there are people that mean so much to you, we don't think about them, or we don't think that we're taking them for granted. And in the moment we do lose them, I think about losing my grandfather when I was in high school in grade 12, and how much that affected me. And I never really talked about this to a whole lot of people either. And I never particularly grew up with my grandfather. He was in the Philippines for all of his life, and I've visited time before that. But he was like the patriarch. He was that figure, a father figure that kind of brought the generations to where I am today, and I respect that. And even though I didn't know him the way some people do with their grandfathers, I felt this strong connection and love that he had for me. And when he passed, seeing my mom really feel broken, I've never really seen my mom ever before, and changed my life. And I think when you take a step back again, realize that there is so much more to life. Kyo, I would love to give you the space to talk about a couple words meant to you.
First off, just in general on losing, I'm a hardcore video gamer. Play like every day, though I probably shouldn't. And every time we lose, it's frustrating. You just don't like to. Like you said, you always want to be on top. But I think losing someone, you were mentioning too, you can lose someone in a different way. You're friends with someone, and I've had this too, friends with someone, best friends, talking every day, hanging out all the time. They start dating someone. You slowly start losing time with them. You keep making an effort, you get nothing out of it. To eventually we're at a point where it's dead. Everything you've tried, you're not getting anything back. To you're not getting wished on your birthday. To just, like it's done. You've lost someone without even physically losing them. And that's one thing, but actually losing someone is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through. I always say, like, I'm very fortunate to have experienced death at a young age and not to someone who was close to me, but it doesn't make it any easier to talk about it at any time. Actually, it was yesterday. Yesterday was the death anniversary of my friend Victoria, who passed away 6 years ago, 2 days after my 18th birthday.
Could you take us through what was going through your mind and what you were feeling?
Yeah, for sure. So it was my 18th birthday, celebrating with my family. We were at Dave & Buster's, and later that night, my dad's like, oh, we have to meet up with one of my clients to go to like a Chinese restaurant for dinner. So we're at Dave & Buster's celebrating my birthday until then. All of a sudden, I get a phone call from someone who's a friend of mine in high school, but not someone I talk that often for that matter. And I was surprised they had my number. It's like, hi. It's like, hey, how's it going? She's like, where are you out? I'm like, yeah, I'm at Dave & Buster's. Like, she's like, oh, you didn't hear? Hear what? She's like, oh, that Victoria died. She's like, I know that you're really close to her, so I thought that you would like know if this was real or not. And I was like, okay, bye. Like, I hung up. I was like, what is this? Like, what am I getting called on my birthday? Like, this is stupid. And then I texted one of Victoria's friends who is also really, really close to her. And still to this day, I don't know if she'll ever hear me talk about this, but still to this day, I regret not showing her any sense of, like, emotion or any condolences towards her. So, Serena, I'm sorry. Like, I literally just texted her, like, is this true? I got a reply that said, yup, like, YEP. And, like, that was it. I didn't reply being like, I'm so sorry. Like, I did nothing. Like, I just left it. And I that's one of my regrets in that moment was I never said anything to her, because I'm like, she's being affected by this the same way as I am, if not worse. She's known her whole life. My dad was playing billiards in the other room, so I walked towards him. I'm like stone faced. He's like, what's wrong? I'm like, my best friend just died. Goes into his pocket, he throws me the keys, and he's like, go to her house. I'm like, how am I gonna go to her house? I don't know where she lives. I've never met her parents. I was just there dumbfounded, and we had to leave to go meet one of his clients and go for dinner, and I'm sitting there crying at the dinner table, and he's like, we have to go to this is business for me, and I'm sitting there crying. That was that pretty much. The next day was school. Flag is lowered at the school. Have math first period. Announcement goes off, if anyone needs anything, come to guidance. Teacher starts talking, if anyone needs to go to guidance. I'm already out the door. Like, I didn't even let him finish his sentence. Like, I didn't go to school for a week. We were literally in the guidance office every day, talking to teachers and having them help us get us through. We planted a tree for her in honor of her at school. I think when it was the 1 year anniversary actually of her death, I finally got to like have a conversation with her mother. Also one of the strongest women I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. She came up to me and pulled me aside. She's like, I know you were never at the birthday parties because we just met in grade 9, now grade 12. She's like, I knew you guys, you weren't always here for dinner and stuff like that, but she talked about you a lot. And I want you to know that. So that was my sense of closure that I received, that, mother knew about me. And they were selling the house, so she told me, I want you to go upstairs and I want you to take something to remember her. So I went upstairs and I took the Build-A-Bear that she made for her dog, Emerson Jr. And it was a ring, like a plastic ring that she wore all the time. And I put that on a necklace, and I actually have that with me all the time. And then the Build-A-Bear slept in my room ever since. It came to university with me too. So yeah, Victoria Plinter, the girl whose eyeshadow always matched her clothes, had the most infectious laugh, could be friends with anybody, and gave the best hugs that you can even imagine. And you would get them when you least expected them, or even when you wanted them, and it would feel like brand new every single time.
You did talk about how you coped, but I mean, if you want to include that.
I think one night that really helped me too was the first night we came home after dinner. It was in my parents' bedroom with me, my mom, my dad, and my sister, and I'm crying. And my dad sits down on the bed and he's like, talk about her. I want you to tell us, who Victoria is. I want us to feel what you're feeling, because we don't know who she is. I want you to tell us what made her so special. I talked for half an hour, 45 minutes, just on and on. And my mom, my dad, and my sister are all crying just as much as me. We're all hand in hand, and they're losing it. I don't know if it's because they're seeing, their son or their brother cry, or did they feel like he lost someone he loved. And my dad always says that to me. He's like, you've been single for like a long time. He's like, because you lost the person you loved the most, that you thought that was their everything. I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not, but I love that girl a lot. She taught me a lot, and it definitely gave that word like a sense of a word to what that word really means, right? Like when I think of love, I think of Victoria Plinter.
Did you discover something about yourself?
Yeah, it was weird. I had a bad, bad relationship with like the Almighty at that point. I was like, oh, why would someone like that take something away that means so much to me? Learning about that maybe she is my higher power. She's the one that I look up to. When I think of God, I think of her. I also learned that she may be gone, herself, but she's still here. Like, I see elements of her in people around me. Soul never dies. Like, see elements of Victoria and Lorenzo, like how we can have fun with each other and joke around and stuff. I could do that with her a lot. You see it in so many different people. That was one thing I learned. It's like, though it may be gone physically, it's not gone forever.
How has your coping mechanisms changed?
It's hard now because like the people that I saw in her are now not close by anymore. I started writing poetry a lot at university, and that kind of became a coping mechanism to put my thoughts down to paper and reflect that way when like no one is around to necessarily listen. My mom's always the coping mechanism for me.
What advice would you give to someone who has lost someone?
My mantra in life, as hard as it may be to hear, it sometimes is everything happens for a reason. Maybe it was her time to go, though we don't know why. Whether it was to bring her parents closer together, help friendship healing in high school, or any way you look at it. But everything happens for a reason. Don't let that person go. As much as you want to let them go to receive that closure, keep them there with you forever. Because that'll help with life in general. If I didn't have Victoria with me now, because she's never left the way I look at it. She's always been here with me. Keep them there with you, because they'll guide you where you want to go, and they'll keep you safe.
If Victoria see you today, what do you think she would say to you?
She'd probably be like, when are you picking me up? Go to Starbucks. I had a car in high school. It was a convertible then. I have a convertible now, and I always said that she would be the first person that would ride in the convertible drop top with me. Though it never happened, I always imagine that whenever I'm riding by myself that she's with me all the time. I'd like to think she's proud. I don't know. I just hope that she's dancing and that she's happy wherever she is.
If you had an opportunity to say something to her, what would you say to her?
I think I say it every night before I go to sleep, so I think she knows. That prayer before you go to sleep, she hears it. But she knows I would tell her every day I love her, and I won't stop. This Halloween, I chose to be Arthur Reed from the TV show Arthur. I started to think my life is very similar to Arthur. Then one episode aired, where a new Goose game had been released, and you can choose to be a specific character. The options were sporty, smart, stylish, strong, funny, and just plain Goose. Arthur ended up picking just plain Goose, and I started to think to myself, I'm just a plain Goose. I realized I wasn't sporty, smart, stylish, strong, or funny. I was so bland, I was average. I've gotten over the point that being average isn't a bad thing. It's just hard knowing that I could be a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
I feel like the part where you talk about being a jack of all trades and master of none was something that I felt my dad imposed on me growing up. I remember I was playing basketball, 5'5", 6.5", Filipino guy. Going to basketball practice every 7 a.m. in the morning, and then right after school at 2:45, 3 o'clock, and my dad I'd be there till 6 o'clock, and my dad would have to pick me up, and my dad would always give me a hard time. What about your grades? What about school? And tell my dad, look, I want to do basketball, but I also want to do student council. I also want to do this mental health committee, and I do all these things. And my dad would always just tell me those exact same words. So when you wrote those things, I was like, I vibe with that because I was told that you can't be a master if you're doing so many things. My dad was always like, you have to pick that one thing, be good at it. And I struggled with that hard back then, even till today. Why can't I do it all? Why can't I do everything? And I find that particularly one of my fears is being average. I feel like this came from a place where you had this relationship with your dad.
My dad and I, our relationship, it struggled, to be honest. It's because we're both just stubborn guys. As a kid growing up, I didn't want to share my grades while he was all about wanting to know how I was doing. He'd want things done his way, and I'd be like, no, that's wrong, try to fight. I never let him into my life, which is 100% my fault. I was very close to my mom, and that was good enough for me. But now I've gotten older, and I've been able to talk to him more, be more open, share things. We're also working closer together now, which is great. But, these are things that he said to me all the time, that, you play video games, you take photos, you're doing drama, you're doing this, that, pick one thing and just, master it, be the best at it, and then you're good. How are you going to just be a jack of all of these? And, that stuck with me. Why can't I be that guy who good at video games, who likes hip-hop, that, takes photos, acts on stage while marketing a company or, doing whatever he wants? I didn't see that was a bad thing, but it made me feel, worthless. Because he mastered accounting. He's an amazing accountant. He knows numbers. He mastered it. He found the thing that he's good at. But I haven't found that one thing that makes me go tick all the time. Because there's so many things that make me go tick. My path just deviates all the time depending on the day.
I think this is where I find I want to kind of emphasize and drive home that it is so important for boys, young men, men in general, to express themselves and have a relationship with their dad. I'm very introspective in my own experience, and I think a lot of that comes from the relationship I have with my dad. I feel like when you wrote this piece in 2014, you talked about being just this average guy in a place where I felt like at Queens, you were that guy. Like you were that guy that everybody wanted to say hi to and get to know. And for you to say you were just some plain goose, like you were just some average guy, I think that had to come from somewhere. And I've been very lucky to have that conversation with you on numerous occasions where we can talk about our father and their impact on us.
You know, it's interesting that you say, like, a lot of people came up to you and talked to you and stuff, but that was just surface conversation to me. You know, I was just being nice to all these people because, like I said, I wanted to have a positive impact with everyone I met, but just because I talked to a lot of people didn't mean that I was extraordinary in my own eyes. Like, I didn't think a number of friends or the amount of likes you get on an Instagram post, you know, determine how good of a person you are, you know, what makes you special. What I really appreciated after this post was published was the amount of people that would say to me, I think you're extraordinary. I don't know why you feel like you're average. And even after my past birthday this year where I got my family to read it, like my aunt and stuff, they're like, don't ever think that you're not extraordinary just because your sister's like getting good grade. And like they would compare it to family because that's all that they see. But they were like, oh, just because everybody else was better academically in the family doesn't mean that you're any less of a person. You're still able to do this, and they're trying to like lift me up. I made it seem like that I was just not an exceptional being. Like I don't think highly of myself. Like I put myself down too much.
Can you share that? Like just recently that came up again?
This was a couple days ago, right? Like around my birthday time. So what my father does is every time it's someone's birthday, and I suggest people do this as well, is when it's someone's birthday, everybody in the family gives them like a wish, like an individual wish, like, oh, I saw it's great because of XYZ, which is really nice because you get to hear like what people truly think about you. I kind of said, oh, I don't want to do it because if you're going to show me love, like show me love 365, don't you show me one day of the year, right? Yeah, but they did it anyway. But it was not a lot of people were there this year. But my aunt said, I have two things for you. I want you to smile because you're not smiling is not enough anymore. And I think I mentioned I was controlling my emotions a lot. And two, she's like, don't ever compare yourself. It reminded me of just when this article was posted, all these people saying like, oh, I think you're so great. I can't believe you think you're average. You know, to me, I'm thinking, oh, they're just, you know, they're being nice. It was like nice to hear it from family, if that made sense. I never heard it from family. It was always like, oh, hey, happy birthday, or like, oh, you're good, like you're so-and-so's son, like you're fine. But it was like, no, I think you're great because you are. And to have that validation from family when you always feel like, oh, it's just family, they're just gonna say it kind of thing, but it felt very real in that moment because after they read the piece they connected with what I was actually going through, so they knew what I meant when I wrote this. They see the struggle, and we're our biggest critic. Other people will see good things in you when you can't see it yourself. So we should be able to love everything about us. We should love ourselves like Kanye loves himself. You know, it's funny too because people ask me like, oh, what did you do for your birthday this year, like on your day of? I took my car and I went for a drive by myself because I wanted to spend that day by myself to appreciate myself because I don't think I get to do that enough.
Man, like, thank you, because Akil is literally that person. I don't get phone calls, like, ever. I rarely get phone calls. Like,
and this is not like, where are you?
And it's not, yeah, unless it's like, you know, hey, where are you? Or, you know, like, it's Christina telling me, like, hey, like, can you, like, you know, do something? Or, you know, like, but Akil will always call me on my birthday at 12 o'clock. Without a doubt, it's past, like, 6, however years, Akil will call me, and he'll spend, like, 20 minutes on the phone with me, literally telling me how much I mean to him. I'm just here on the phone, just on the other side. Wow, like, I can't believe every year this guy calls me at 12 o'clock. Doesn't forget about me, doesn't forget the day. Akil is really one of those guys for me that reminds me of how special I can be and how much a Rise Over Run can really go, because he shows the potential of how like good people can be if you just give them the opportunity to and give the space to talk.
How do you feel after revisiting the story that you've written?
I feel good. I feel nice to be able to revisit these thoughts and appreciate for what they were, but also be like, yeah, I went through that. And the fact that I was able to talk about it and put it on a paper or like the internet, however you want to look at it, it's a cool thing to be able to talk about something you're not prone to talking about. I think that's a part of what this is for, to generate that discussion. So please don't keep your feelings bottled up.
Is there anything you would like to change or feel like differently about?
I still, to a degree, you know, deal with those things all the time, for sure.
If there's a message, a general message that you would like to share to our audience, what would it be?
As cliche as it is, be yourself, because there's no one better at being yourself than you. Be authentic, be genuine, be humble, and spread love, because that's the force that moves the world, not gravity, let's be honest.
Thank you so much for coming and taking your time. We all learned something from each other, and I hope our audience learned something a bit new, too.
YRU.
12:80 a.m. and you just listened to Akil, Lorenzo, and Christina.
Thank you, Akil Dua, for being a guest on our show. And thank you, Ryan Golden, for producing the music.
Thank you to the YRU team and the Office of the Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth. For more information, go to www.provincialadvocate.on.ca.
And until next time, this is Lorenzo
and Christina. You're listening to CJRU 1280 AM. Keep rising higher
and rise with one another.
YRU on CJRU. The views expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of the Office of the Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth.